So we're going to be shooting into a video today on the topic of willpower and why to get better socially, you've got to cultivate your will. This is so important in my view that, frankly, all the years that I've gone out and tried to get better social skills, I view the improvement in my willpower as more important and more relevant than even the benefits of having a better social life. Like, having a better social life is amazing, but it's that increase in willpower that I view as being even more important. So, what does that mean? First of all, the basic level understanding that you want to start with is that most of your brain is trying to reduce your cognitive load. It's trying to save energy. And the way that it does this is it tries to put you on autopilot. Now, I want you to imagine, for example, that you're driving to work and you have the specific way that you drive every day and you sort of do it unconsciously. But maybe it's the weekend, you've got the weekend off, and you find yourself driving to maybe meet up with a friend, but you pull off on that same side of the road as you do to go to work. And you're like, why did I just pull off the road? It's because your brain is on autopilot and it's trying to reduce cognitive load. So you want to think of any time that you get off of basic level autopilot as burning down your brain a little bit. And so what your brain is doing is getting tired anytime that you have to exert your conscious will. So where does this come in with your social life? Here's what happens. You go out to maybe a bar or a club or wherever, and you want to go and meet somebody. And what you find happens is that you can't summon the willpower to go and say hi. You just can't make yourself do it. I mean, this sounds ridiculous on the surface, but this problem is extremely common. It's everywhere. It's rampant. And so the way that you'll build willpower at one level is by going out and trying to meet people. But you'll find that when you fail, you see how bad it makes you feel. And just through the process of feeling like you suck and feeling bad, that can actually raise your core willpower. That's actually a good thing. But the problem is, at the same time, this can also become very, very defeating, because what winds up happening is that as you're getting down on yourself, you might also start self-attacking a little bit too much and beating yourself up and thinking that there's something wrong with you. In fact, there is nothing wrong with you at all. You just don't understand how to build systems and how to small chunk this process of building willpower. So what do I mean by that? Well, here's what I would find. There was a number of different things that I did to build willpower, but the basic level understanding is that you don't want to think of you as you. Okay, follow me here. You don't want to think of you as you, like, I'm Steve, I'm Jenny. Don't think of yourself just as Steve or Jenny. Think of yourself more as like a partner with your brain. You and your brain are partners. And the analogy, which Jonathan Haidt uses in the book The Happiness Hypothesis, is he calls it the elephant and the rider analogy. So the analogy that Jonathan Haidt uses is called the elephant and the rider analogy. And the analogy is that rather than thinking that you're in complete control of your brain, you're actually not. And instead, just like if you're riding an elephant, you've got to put a little carrot in front of that elephant. And if you know how to put that perfect little carrot in front of that elephant, what's going to wind up happening is that you can actually convince the elephant to maneuver, right? So it's not just wanting the elephant to move more. You want to learn how to put the little carrot, and you want to become a master of that. So this idea of learning how to build your conscious will, as far as knowing how to put a carrot or a stick in front of yourself, really can come down to some very, very basic exercises. Here be an example. One of the first things that you could try is going out to a social gathering and giving your friend $2,000 and saying, every time that I say hi to somebody, you're going to give me back $200. So I'm going to go say hi to 10 people. Now, when you're hearing this, you might say, oh no, I can't do this. I don't want to risk losing $2,000. Well, you've actually got to pick an amount of money that frankly is a little bit scary for you. And if you can't do that, if you can't pick something that's scary for you, you're probably not going to do it. For me, I'd probably want to give about $20,000 or $30,000 and get back a couple $1,000s for everybody who I said hi to. It'd be the basic way to do it. And what this does is it puts pressure on you. What I used to do, I don't recommend this because I think we live in a different era now, but in the old era that I came from, the way that I used to like to do it was I would tell my friend actually to punch me in the shoulder if I didn't go say hi. I'd tell them to count me down from 30 seconds. I'd have them punch me in the shoulder and punch me pretty hard. Not hard enough to damage it, but hard enough to definitely to make it not worth my while to wimp out. Now, what that wound up doing was providing a stick. So it made the willpower more easy. But how about changing the carrot, making it a little bit more exciting? Well, one thing that I would always do is after every single person who I spoke to, I'd say 1,000 out of 10. Who would have the courage to do that? And then I'd find something funny about it and get myself to laugh. And this became something that I built right in my nervous system. I built this deeply, deeply right into my nervous system and got it to the point where every single time I say hi to somebody, I'd say 1,000 out of 10. Who the F would have the balls to do that? And then I'd find something funny about it. And then usually what I'd do is I'd find something that I might have tweaked. Maybe my energy could have been a bit more positive. Maybe my communication could have been a bit more confident. Maybe like a little tweak, but not from a capacity of self-attack, just something to build on and improve, coming from the frame of I'm awesome, and I want to get even more awesome. So that's sort of the next thing that I would do. Now, beyond that, if you look at the nervous system, you can actually get to the point where you can retrain your nervous system by being so happy after every time you say hi to somebody that what winds up happening is you look forward to it. It's like your nervous system is waiting for the little cookie treat. So from that standpoint, you can see how just by consciously building systems and consciously understanding how my willpower works, yes, on one level, I can build a stronger willpower, a greater ability to get out of autopilot. That's amazing. I mean, of course, do that. But at the same time, we also want to be strategic. We don't just want to rely on sheer force of will, because maybe somebody like myself, when I have a better conscious understanding of the elephant or the rider analogy, when I know how to put a better carrot and stick, I'm gonna clean up while you're sitting there suffering. So I have an advantage just by consciously understanding that. So you don't want to think about it like rise to the occasion, okay? Like, oh, I'm just going to rise to the occasion. You want to think of it like you fall to the level of your systems. And a carrot and a stick system is something very, very powerful that you can do. Now, next up, you also want to have what's called identity level change. What does that mean? Well, one of the most powerful forces in human nature is that we want to be congruent to our identity. You always want to be whoever it is that you say that you're being. The reason why this happens is because in society, we kind of find a lane through which we can operate. And when we found that lane of, I'm this kind of person and people like me for it and I get acceptance for it, one of the greatest drives that we have is to continue to be that person and not to be perceived as fake or lying or incongruent. So when you can do that, and when you can get to a point where you take on an identity as somebody who is social, or somebody who's a person of action, somebody who takes massive action, somebody who is at the cause and not the effect of your results, that could be socially or whatever in life, that identity level shift is also something that's going to give you more willpower, okay? Now, lastly, and this is kind of a funny one, is you can do things to actively break yourself out of autopilot on a day-to-day basis. And what that means is to get out of that derp state in general. It means that you say to yourself, I don't necessarily want to be in autopilot all the time. I want to do things that are hard. Some people do things, for example, like writing with their left hand, or their non-dominant hand, because you could be left-handed. Or they could do things like crossword puzzles, or do things like taking on a new sport. Anything to prevent your mind from getting calcified, and anything that forces you to initiate new forms of willpower on a day-to-day basis. A common one that's done, although for me at this point it's pretty easy, is cold plunge. Wim Hof, you can look him up, he does this. And it's just that ability to jump into a cold plunge pool and not let it affect you and stay present to a little bit of pain, right? Because your body's telling you not to do it, but you say, no, I'm gonna go do it. Or likewise, you might go to a Russian Bonnie where things are very, very hot and do that. Or maybe you take on a project that's very, very difficult. Maybe you read the hardest book that you can find. Maybe you go and try to help somebody in a capacity that's beyond what most people would expect. Whatever, you over-deliver. Anytime that you do that, you're fighting against that natural derpiness and engaging your conscious will. And this is something that you can do over and over and over. So this is the kind of thing that social interaction will begin to expose, and at higher levels, it also forces you to look at your systems in general. For example, maybe you meet somebody who you like and you're getting along well and you feel very validated, and you want to invite them to an after party, or to go off in some win-win adventure that's spontaneous, whatever it is, and you feel yourself just saying, well, I just want the validation. I mean, that was fun. I don't want to risk, them saying, them not being into it if I suggest that we go to some other cool place. I give them an invitation. You see? So you'll feel your brain doing that. Or you'll feel your brain not wanting to go talk to somebody who you feel like is out of your league socially, or somebody who's more attractive than you, or somebody who you couldn't envision yourself talking to. Maybe you feel yourself not wanting to go to some high-end party or some really high-end restaurant or high-end social gathering, or you feel yourself not wanting to have a party. And again, the more that you can push into your edge like that, the better that you get at that, the better that life in general is going to get. So this is a commitment that you make. And what social interaction does is it exposes you. But while it has exposed you and makes you feel bad, and you feel crummy about yourself when you're not getting the result that you want, you've also got to view it as an incredible opportunity to make your life so much better. Now, what I'm going to end with is something that I call the 3 fatigues. And this is also a very, very popular bit that I've taught over the years, and people really, really like this. And I think if you take this on, it could change your life. So the 3 fatigues is this idea that you're consciously overwhelming your cognitive load by A, having willpower fatigue, because you're thinking about whether or not to say hi, rather than just say hi to everybody. Number 2 is that you're getting what I call persona fatigue, which is that you're putting on a persona when you talk to people, which is making you exhausted and it's burning down your cognitive load. And lastly, I would call it self-judgment fatigue, because what you're doing is you're burning down your willpower by judging yourself continually. And so what you want to do as an alternative to that is make a basic system, okay? Because again, we're not going to rise to the occasion. We're going to fall to the level of our systems. Try just an experiment. It's up to you. I'm not saying you have to do it, but as an experiment, try going out and just saying hi to everybody. What that does, it means that you're not like, well, should I say I, shouldn't I say, and burn down cognitive load. Try just being yourself. Now look, there's a lot of improvement we can do on communication, the way you sub-communicate, the way you carry yourself. There's a lot we can do. But just an experiment, try just being yourself. Just a basic experiment. See how that actually saves energy. And lastly, try viewing everything as 1,000 out of 10. Who would have the guts to do that, and so on and so forth. Try doing that, and what you'll find is, over time, you might save so much energy that you actually wind up getting energized by the process of social interaction itself. Now, when you pull all this together, it just gets better and better and better. And what you're doing is, rather than waiting for yourself to rise to the occasion, which is kind of unlikely to happen, you're learning to be a better elephant rider. You're learning how to put the carrot, learning how to put the stick, and you're getting in control of yourself. And if you combine that with just a general philosophy of always trying things that are difficult, and always trying to get out, and always trying to rely less and less on autopilot, what you'll find is the act of going out and socializing actually builds your willpower, and then you wind up getting multiple returns on investment in this, because you wind up building such an incredible willpower that you use to make more money, to do more unique things, to to go on crazy vacations, to live an amazing life. And yes, your social life gets 1,000,000 times better, but what's also more powerful is who you become as a human being. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come back tomorrow. We'll continue this video a little bit tomorrow, and we'll go a little bit deeper on willpower. And we're really, really going to bring this concept home. So next up, what we're going to do is talk about how to take off the brake when you're pushing down the gas as far as your willpower. And what I mean by this is that you can have all the willpower in the world slamming down the gas, but if the brake is on, that's going to start to mess you up. So I'm going to nail this from a standpoint of mind, body, and soul. And saying to yourself, where is the brake in your brain? Where is the brake in your body? And where is the brake in your core essence? Kind of a funny way to put it. Let's start with the mind. So your brain is always trying to put a handicap on you. It's trying to stifle you from being too charismatic. It's trying to stifle you from meeting too many people. It's trying to stifle you from raising in your status. And the reason that it does this is because if you don't know what your status is in an environment, let's say that you're back in the old prehistoric days, the cave person days, and you were to start raising your status and engaging with people and having fun with people, your brain knows that some other alpha cave person is going to come and smash your head in with their friends. Your brain knows this. So as a survival mechanism that you have evolved into, your brain will actually make it where you feel like you have nothing to say. You feel like you can't be funny. You feel like you can't express yourself until you have shown your brain proof that you have status in that environment and that you're okay and safe in that environment. Look, even me here, as I'm shooting on the edge of a cliff, I feel a little bit nervous. And you might feel that I'm a little bit more stammery, right? Because my brain is like, I'm kind of like, okay, I mean, I'm safe. I've shot in actually way worse spots than this. But I could just picture myself, if I just even slightly fall this way, boom, I'm off the cliff. And it does stifle in my communication a little bit. Well, in the same way, if you're in an environment where you don't know what your status is, you're also at risk. So imagine how I'd be communicating with you right now in a flat area where I'm just like, yeah, I can move around. My brain, I'm going to have a lot more bandwidth to be able to communicate. Then I'm going to be able to communicate with you, kind of on the side of a cliff here, and I'm kind of like, how much leeway do I have to lean here, right? But then, funny enough, if I actually do start kind of checking out a little bit, right, and I start to feel a little bit more safe, then all of a sudden my communication starts to improve a little bit because now I'm reclaiming bandwidth from the fear factor. So the way that I like to teach this is that if you go into an environment where you want to meet people, begin to engage, and what you'll find is in that environment, you'll begin to feel safer and safer as you realize that people are welcoming, or even if they're not welcoming, nothing crazy is going to happen. Of course, if you are in some crazy environment, then you've got to be aware of that. But assuming that you're in a pretty standard environment, your mind is going to start to feel safer. And what's going to begin to happen is your bandwidth is going to open up. You're going to have more to say. And then here's what's funny. When you know that you have more to say, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to feel like you want to go and say hi to people. You want to go and engage with people. And the reason why is because you're like, well, I have value to offer. I'm funny right now. I'm flowing right now. I'm in a good state right now. So you're going to feel that way naturally. So in your mind, you want to show proof, not promises, simply by, kind of force initiating at first to just say, okay, I'm going to say hi. But then, if people don't want to talk, then, oh, nice to meet you, right? But you're going to say hi and meet people and network and make friends and get out there. But then going from that next standpoint, as you do it, what you're going to find is that in a given area, you start to feel safe. And what you're going to weirdly see is it happens in pockets. So, in one little area of the venue, you start to feel safe. Like, again, if I just kind of check out this a little bit more and I see like, okay, I'm pretty good. Right? As I do that, all of a sudden my mental bandwidth opens up. You can actually hear my voice open up a little bit. Okay, but then if I go back down there where I don't know that it's safe, then my voice might close up a little bit and my charisma closes up a little bit because I feel a little bit more nervous. Okay, this is the idea of proof, not promises. So what you're going to find is, yes, you want to be increasing your will and not be not be always in autopilot. That's a powerful thing. But you also want to remove the brake that your mind is putting on you. Now, the next one is in your body. And what you're going to find is that your body is only motivated when you're very, very clear on what it is that you're doing. So what you want to do is you want to get very, very clear in why it is that you want to engage with people. And you want to sort of sell yourself. You want to find your inner salesperson on why you want to go and meet people and to increase your reasoning for it. And then what you want to do is you want to think about what your life will look like if you don't meet people and how that's the real threat. Not learning how to meet people is the actual threat. And so when you do this and your evolutionary being says, you know what, I've got to go meet people, it tilts the seesaw. So what a lot of us do is we think, oh, well, I can figure out how to meet people later. I can figure out how to meet people later. But we've never examined the real consequences of what your life is going to look like if you don't have this down. So what I'd encourage you to do is write a list of how negative things will be if you don't learn how to meet new people, how bad it can be. Everything from lacking options, not meeting the kind of people who you genuinely connect with because you're stuck in this very limited pool, them having too much leverage over you because you have no other options, so you're stuck pandering to them, you not learning all of the cool aspects of how to increase your willpower and your social skills and social awareness and the damage that that's going to make. But then conversely, think of all the fun that you could have, how much more money that you could make, how many beautiful experiences you could have. The fact that when you have a lot of options, people actually treat you better. You want to start getting familiar with that so that your body realizes like there's nothing to be gained by just staying here. This sucks. Now, the last one is in your soul. And what I would say there is learning to engage the process, not just the result. Now, a lot of people say, well, if you look at, say, Kobe Bryant, or if you look at Tom Brady, the first thing they say when they win a championship is, I just want it so bad. I just want it so bad. So you might be saying to yourself, it's good to want it so bad. And that was actually what we just covered. That is part of it. Okay, wanting it so bad is part of it. We call this intent, but then we say intent, a high intention. But the other side of it is what you call freedom from outcome. Yes, people generally want a better life badly, right? You probably do too. People want a general life badly. And yes, you should increase your desire to have a better life. But at the same time, what you also want to do is do something for your core essence, for your soul. And your spirit has a love for the process itself. So in this case, what you can do is play little games with yourself. For example, one little game that I've played, and I've done this with friends of mine, is I'll go say, touch my shoulder. And then my friend gives me a high five. Then I go and say hi to somebody, and my friend gives me a high five. Then I go, touch the bar, and my friend gives me a high five. Then I go and say hi to somebody, and my friend gives me a high five. And what this does is it kind of tricks the brain a little bit to engage with the process itself. So you can actually make it a game where you say to yourself, this is not just about the result, this is about the process itself. And what you'll find is, again, everybody has desire, and you do want to increase your desire, but you also you're not always going to raise to the level of your desire. You're often going to fall to the level of your systems. And the more that you get in the moment and enjoy the process itself, the more that it also frees up mental bandwidth. And then as you're freeing up more and more mental bandwidth, what you're going to notice is that you are more talkative, more charismatic. You're not as stifled. You're opening up more, and people tend to like you more. And then when people like you more, you don't need as much willpower. So that's really the point that I'm trying to make to you here, is that yes, have willpower, but also realize that you probably have the brakes on. Remove the brakes, and then whatever willpower that you do have, which is the gas, is going to take you that much further. So next up, as far as willpower, what I'm going to teach you is a paradigm that is only helpful to you if you're happy in your life and you're thriving. If you're unhappy in your life and you lack confidence in your coping, you're going to hate this. But if you're really, really strong in your life, I think you're going to like this. And that is what I call the I am dumb frame. Okay? And this frame has completely changed my life. So what I always say is that if you could just say right now, like if right now you could just say, I'm a complete idiot, instantly you're a millionaire. This is something I've taught for many, many years. Just as long as you could just say, I'm an idiot. As soon as you can say that and operate from that frame that you're a complete moron, instantly you just set off a chain reaction that's going to make you super rich. Now, why do I say that? I really believe that all of us, all human beings, are not really built for the modern world. I think that we're built, I don't know, you could take a guess. Maybe live in a cave and make a fire and do some hunting and do a little dance or, something like that. We're not built to have all these spinning plates in life that we're dealing with. And we don't really learn, if we're being honest, how our minds work, do we? And in a natural environment, our minds would probably come into equilibrium with that natural environment, but in the world that we live in now, our minds just don't come into equilibrium with it. So that being the case, just understanding that your mind is not coming into equilibrium with its environment, you can then begin to say, you know what, I'm kind of dumb, and you can begin to change it. And so that's this idea of small chunking that we talked about earlier in this video. Just saying to yourself, look, I get it that I'm kind of dumb, I'm kind of incompetent, I don't really have the willpower to just, see somebody I like to talk to and just initiate a conversation. I make excuses, I lie to myself, I'm totally self-deceptive, I have every excuse in the book not to start a conversation with somebody. I'm totally not in control. And then if you just can admit that to yourself, if you just say that to yourself, well, then all of a sudden you say, well, okay, if I'm at that place, well, what could I do to make it better? Maybe I could play little games like, give somebody $2,000 and every single time I say hi to somebody, I get back $200 until I get all my money back after 10 approaches. You see what I'm saying here? So it's the basic understanding where you say, I'm kind of dumb, that allows you to build your willpower because it lets you create all these little hacks. It allows you to, to add the little carrots, to add the little sticks, to consciously take on a new identity. Even though, why should you have to do that? Why should you take on a new identity just to do the right things? Of course, you shouldn't in theory, but in reality, you need to. And so it's the people who I think are coping in life who struggle with self-esteem, where if you say, hey, just admit that you're kind of slow or admit that you're kind of not in control, they're like, I am in control, I'm not slow, that's not true. Whereas, if you're thriving in life and you're confident with yourself and you have self-esteem, you can say, I'm kind of dumb and I love myself anyway. I'm kind of stupid, but I'm a good person. You know what? I don't get exactly how my mind is, my mind doesn't work exactly how I wish that it would, and I'm so cool. And that's okay. And then you can even take another identity beyond that where you say, you know what? I'm the kind of person who is able to adapt to how my mind works and who's able to learn to play the game properly with my mind, to learn to be that good elephant rider, like we said earlier. And then once you take on that kind of identity, now all of a sudden you have the ability to control yourself. Okay, so it's a core understanding that it's like, I'm dumb, you're dumb, we're all dumb. I'm not in control, you're not in control, we're all not in control. It's a core understanding that allows us really to hit the next level. And, I guess I'd leave you with this. Building willpower is a beautiful thing to build, specifically because a lot of people don't have it. And so as a result of that, when you do build it, everybody really, really appreciates it. You really, really stand out. That's what I like about it. What I've taught myself to do is relatively straightforward. It's not that complicated. You teaching yourself this is not that complicated. We've given you most of the tools right here in this video. But because most people won't do it, you will stand out and you will offer so much value to people. Basically, learning to have willpower is like this wide open lane. It's almost like you found some kind of business idea that most people have just never ever thought of. And then just by seeing that, you get to come out with this brand new business. Say that you were the inventor of smartphones. You're like, there's no such thing as a smartphone yet, and then you had somehow the resources to invent it. If you just build willpower consciously, you just recognize most of us don't have it, and then you build it consciously, that makes you stand a cut above. So I hope that you enjoyed these ideas, and I hope that this inspired you to build your willpower. Life gets really, really good when you do. I hope you do. I'm here for you. I'm here to help, and I'll be back with more soon. Peace.